To be humble, to be kind, it is a giving of the peace in your mind. To a stranger, to a friend, to give in such a way that has no end. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other and nothing more. And to be bold, to be brave, it is the thinking that the heart can still be saved. And the darkness can come quick, the danger's in the anger and in the hanging on to it. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. And tell me what it is that you see, a world that's full of endless possibilities. And heroes don't look like they used to, they look like you do. We are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. We are how we treat each other, nothing more. We are how we treat each other.
Good morning. Good morning and welcome back, Katya. Welcome back, Oregon. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Berkeley. I'm Reverend Marcus Liefert, and I'm so glad to be with you this morning. Thank you for being here. If you're visiting with us this morning, we hope that no matter who you are or how you make your living, no matter whom you love or how you experience the sacred, you will feel welcome here. If you have questions about the life of our community, you're welcome to ask those at the welcome table in the atrium. Find somebody after the service and have a conversation. We have a memory book in the back of the sanctuary. If there's something on your heart this morning, a joy or a sorrow, a grief or gratitude that you would like lifted up, read aloud during the service, you can write it in the book there, and I'll read it aloud later while we pray. If there's something that you'd like acknowledged silently, a silent memory or prayer, you can light one of the candles in the back anytime. We have a special congregational meeting this afternoon after the church service. I know that that's what everybody's looking forward to this afternoon. The only event of consequence. And so I hope you can stay, and even more so, I hope that you will take a moment to sign the super cards. There's a number of them out in the atrium this morning, but especially for those outgoing board members who have done tremendous service for our congregation. Let them know your gratitude. Thank you. So we're wrapping up this series about the masks today. This is our final worship service in this series, and we're going to talk about superheroes a little and the moments when they take their masks off. And so you know that I am not typically wearing my robes very often, but I thought since we're talking about superheroes, I'd put on my cape. So welcome, good morning. Why don't we rise in body or spirit, whether you've got your cape on or not. Let's sing together. Morning has come.
Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. A new day dawns, once more the gift is given. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open your eyes to see the life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it to among us. The light of love here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
Good morning. I'm Don Close, and I'm your worship associate today. As we begin, let's take a moment before we light the chalice to remind ourselves that our church occupies land in Huchien, the unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people. May we have the humility and courage to do our part to restore what has been broken, and the wisdom to live into a new solidarity with indigenous communities and the earth. Now, with Reverend Marcus, let us light our chalice flame with these words compiled by Cynthia Landrum words from Spider-Man, the Green Lantern, and the Human Torch. Mindful that with great power comes great responsibility, we light this chalice in the hopes that in brightest day and blackest night, our faith will flame on. Now, would you join with me in saying our covenant? Love guides this church. The quest for truth and justice is its common purpose. To give thanks, listen deeply, speak with care, honor our differences, and seek and grant forgiveness. These things we covenant with one another.
If you would like to join me on the stage, let's have a conversation about the original Groundhog's Day. Who celebrated Groundhog's Day? Anybody? So what do we do on Groundhog's Day, right? We celebrate the groundhog either coming out and it sees its shadow, and so we know we're going to have more winter, or it doesn't see its shadow. It doesn't see its shadow, and we know that we're not going to have more winter, or, wow, everyone. Let's just get to the original. So, Groundhog's Day, we know what it is. There's a groundhog, there's a shadow, there's not. It means good, it means bad. But before that, there was the Kalia. Before there was the groundhog. And the Kalia, has anyone ever heard of that, the Kalia, before? No. Okay. So I'm going to pass around something to people. And maybe Stella can tell us what she sees. What do you see, Stella? What do you see? And also Vivian. A snake. The Kalia is a snake sometimes. That's true. I think it's a cobra. I think it's a jade, wonderful snake that may be a cobra, I think. But this snake represents the Kalia. So the Kalia is one of the forms of Bridget. So we just had a ritual here last week to celebrate St. Bridget's Day and to celebrate the goddess Bridget, right? That is one version of this goddess. Bridget is a triple goddess. She's the mother of winter. She's also the mother of summer. She's the mother of poetry and art, so many things. And she is also the mother of winter, the crone, the older goddess. And in this form, she is a snake. And that is the original Groundhog's Day, the Kalia Day, where February 2nd, the Kalia would come out of her cave in the form of a snake. And if she saw her shadow, it's going to be more winter. And if she does not see her shadow, then it's going to be better. The weather's going to get better. And I think about this type of idea internally, right? So we're in winter right now. It's cold. It's been raining. And we tend to kind of go inward, right? And as the weather gets better, we hope that we come out and we're ready to engage with the world in a whole new way. So I have a question for people. What is it going to be for you today? I'm not sure whether or not the Kalia saw her shadow or she did not. But what is your shadow right now? Are you resting in your shadow, or is it time for you to come out of the cave? Who's ready to come out? Who's ready to stay? Both are valid. So I salute both of those choices, and I want to try something with you. Let's do that work together. So I'm going to come through the aisle, and we're all going to hiss together to bring about this change. So let's do some magic together, right? Let's gather that Kalia energy. All right, and you guys can do it too. Do you guys want to walk through with me? You can if you want. Okay, let's go. You ready? 1, 2, 3. And it is done. I hope that we have good weather that's coming, and I hope that we have good feelings and love surrounding us at all times. Blessed be. Let's sing our kids out to RE.
My life's journey has taken a turn that I did not expect a year or two ago. And who would expect an old guy, well into his golden retirement years, to venture on a new career, or more accurately, reactivate an old career, but in a new, more challenging form. After several months of preparation, in January, I launched myself as a therapist in the modality of telehealth, using my long-maintained clinical licenses as a marriage and family therapist and educational psychologist. Telehealth uses online video conferencing, affectionately known as Zoom. Reflecting on Reverend Marcus's sermons this last month and Reverend Aya's last Sunday, I've taken away that each of us in the course of our lives has a myriad of truths that we own. Each truth has a place, a meaning, a validity. Perhaps each includes a mask as a way we present that truth to others and even to ourselves. I'm reminded of Polonius' advice to his son Laertes, "Unto thy own self be true." Much easier said than done. Am I taking off a mask? The mask of a retired elder, content to relax and reap the rewards of a busy life of work and service? I'm clearly pushing myself out of a comfort zone and into a position of being trusted by people seeking help with life problems involving deep emotional distress. And with that, I'm taking on a risk, and not just for myself. I may fail, fall short, miss something with someone. It is to take on a large responsibility. Doubts creep in and out. Am I up for it at this late stage of my life? So I ask myself, am I putting on a new mask? And of what sort? One of the essential tasks and inescapable challenges, I think, of being a person is being one and being many all at once and continually. Here we meet a limitation of the metaphor of a mask as an explanatory tool. We are one, not as an actor putting on and taking off masks or the identities they portray. We are one as the author of what I'll call self-stories. Each of us has many parts, sub-selves or self-stories that we have written, some forgotten, some archived, some still active. This year I realized, despite my age and the self-story that seemed to dominate for me, that I can write a new story that captures more of my truth. At least I hope so. Each of us can do this, I believe, each within the circumstances life presents. And what I've learned is that while we are alive, we cannot write the endings, only the next chapters. In becoming a telehealth therapist, I am writing for myself a new self-story. It's not like putting on a mask, which is separate from me. The new story is not really new, but will incorporate, extend earlier self-stories, maybe a new chapter of a single chronicle, layers of self-stories. I'm curious how it will progress and what I may discover along the way.
a beautiful new collection of prayers and meditations, prayers, poems, and meditations for staying human, she calls it. So I invite you to take a moment to rest more deeply in your seat. To feel your connection down to this good earth. To notice your breath. Moving in and out, connecting you to all that is, all that has been, all that will be. For healthy vulnerability, she prays, a corrective to all this taking off the mask nonsense. God of the untold, we are raw. Many times we have had our pain used as a means to make other people feel like they have achieved some kind of intimacy. Reveal these people as vultures of emotion. Reveal these moments as a feeding ground for those who are emptied of their own stories. Protect us from fleeting sentimentality and shallow displays of vulnerability. We have grown wary of communal spaces that ask us to bare ourselves for their sake without ever becoming thoughtful about how they will care for and love us in the midst of our rawness. Liberate us from the lie that vulnerability is the only form of relational closeness. Remind us that some stories aren't meant for everyone, and that is okay and good. And in the presence of those who are more interested in using us to rouse emotion in their emptiness, help us to choose ourselves, our wholeness, that we would practice a sacred withholding that mirrors the mysteries of the one who made us. May it be so. And may we, in our rawness or our wholeness, with hearts broken open or glad and excited this day, may we dwell together in a space that can hold it all, in a stillness, a quiet that can hold even the cries of babies, the coughing of elders, whatever human noises we make. May this space hold it all. In this community of care and witness, we hold one another through the seasons of our lives and lift up those joys and sorrows among us. We offer prayers wishing dear James, our wonderful facilities attendant, a speedy recovery. Facilities star, it's written here. A speedy recovery. Was in the ER with a flu last night. Sending messages of hope and love to all who struggle with mental health. You are loved. You are not alone. And healing prayers for Diana Keevan, Alan Hosen, and James. Hooray for Sylvia Parasotto, who continues to heal. Helen Toy writes wonderful news from Randall last night that Sylvia Parasotto is recovering so well she'll be leaving intensive care. Remembering burns, as I believe all it says here, lifting up in our thoughts. Praying for the abundant flowing out of blessings upon Katrin on this her birthday. In this year may she dwell in the universal heart of divine love and course through the clear sky of her own innate, unimpeded rainbow radiance. All love to her on this day and every day. And from Katrin and all who celebrate, wishing everyone a blessed Lunar New Year, year of the wood dragon, a year of expansion and transformation if we choose it. May all beings, including ourselves, be safe, healthy, happy, and free. May this be a blessed new year of abundance and prosperity. And go Niners. May it be so, and amen. Will you remain seated as we sing together every night and every morn?
Every night and every morn, some to misery are born. Every morn and every night, some are born to sweet delight. Joy and woe are woven fine, clothing for the soul divine. Under every grief and pine surrounds the joy with silk entwined. It is right, it should be so. We were made for joy and woe, and when this we rightly know, safely through the world we go.
They've been getting me with online advertising lately. Do they ever get you with the online advertising? They're getting really good at it. They know us, right? This blurring of our public and private lives that our social media world has made. and this public and private life. That's what I want to try and talk about a little bit today. But the blurring online has gotten to the point that they know exactly what I want. The latest one, they've figured out just who I am, and I'm not a poster. But they're watching what I look at, and I don't know how it works, but they know me because they know to advertise over and over again this group therapy experience in a role-playing game setting, and I haven't signed up, not yet. But I think a lot about this question of my private life as a minister and my public life as a minister, and trying to close the gap there as much as possible without giving up the idea that we are, each of us, entitled to a private life, no matter how public our role. And it's a dilemma sometimes, because I want to tell you about what's on my heart and what's happening in my life. And I do, as you might have noticed, tell a lot of stories about myself. And yet I don't want this to be about me. So the dilemma this month was whether to talk about, it's the anniversary of, so you can see I'm doing it, but I want you to know it was a dilemma. It's the anniversary of my best friend's death, the first anniversary of his death this month. And so he's very present on my mind and was very present in preparing for this sermon, because I, more than anything in the world, wanted to talk to him about what to say about superheroes, because he was a true believer. The last few years of his life in his tiny little North Berkeley studio apartment, he had half the living space filled up with this shelving unit that had his comic book collection after he'd finally moved it out from New York. And he couldn't quite do what he always said he was going to do of cull it and just keep the most precious to him and sell the rest. And instead, he just lived with this enormous, none of us could go over to his house because there was nowhere to be except where this comic book collection was. I couldn't talk to Jared, so I read a book about the history of Superman instead, and I'll tell you in a minute what I learned. But I think that ministers do have this challenge of figuring out how to be an authentic public self while maintaining a private self as well. I found it really challenging when I was getting ready to speak at his memorial service, because of course speaking at memorial service is what I do for a living. And yet for Jared's memorial, I didn't want to be in my professional ministerial capacity. I just wanted to be a mourner. It was hard to find that in-between place. They say the adage is ministers should preach from your scars, not from your wounds, which is a beautiful turn of phrase, but I still, it doesn't resolve my dilemma, because I worry if we never talk about our wounds in public, how will we know how to be together in our woundedness? So ministers have this dilemma, but I think all of us do, no matter what your level of public life is. Certainly, it's been on my mind, Taylor Swift. I don't know if you've heard of her. I know almost nothing about her, except that I can't help but know a few things about her. So public is her life. She's dating somebody. I don't even have his whole name quite. Kelsey something Kelsey something. Travis, thank you. Travis Kelsey, yes, and he's participating in this large sporting event this afternoon, and she's going to, right, we know this, there's a story we're all privy to, and she's 30 years old, and she has this life, this public life in which she has carefully crafted this image of a very good, wholesome person. And I do worry about those parts, like we were talking about a couple weeks ago, the people on her bus who don't fit that narrative. and the cost of living such a public life. Okay, so superheroes. Superheroes who face this dilemma, of course. The public life of a superhero and the private alias that tries to protect them. There comes the moment in every story, and it's the moment that happens, over and over again with Lois Lane and Clark Kent and Superman. Their love triangle, where Lois loves Superman and couldn't care less about this Clark Kent nerd. And of course, they're one and the same, but it's this saga, and you're watching it, and it's the same thing that happens when you're watching Peter Parker and his Aunt May, and he's keeping this whole after-school fighting crime life from the only grown-up he's got left. And in either one, and over in these superhero stories, you just want them to tell the person who they love the most, their closest loved ones, you want them to let them know the truth, to be seen and be held in their wholeness. And as the audience, you know that would be the right thing to do, but of course, whenever it does, and it does occasionally, and all sorts of weird things happen, but when it does, it turns out that what the superhero knew all along is true, that if their identity is revealed to anyone, it's the people who are closest to them, the ones they love the most, who will be in danger. How do we live with our true selves, our vulnerability, with those that we love the most without putting them in danger? It's not true of all superheroes, and I don't know if you have been tuning in to our pantheon of superheroes, but we've got a serious pantheon of superheroes these days. I think there's something in us that craves it. I think we lost our pantheons of gods. We descendants of Protestants let go of the saints. And as soon as Nietzsche declared God is dead, we've got these modern saints, these modern gods, our superheroes who come in to fill the void. And so every corner of the culture pops up their superheroes, and they don't all struggle with this same identity thing. Have you seen Black Panther? The movie, or a little bit about Black Panther, the superhero who comes out of the Black Panthers, came originally published in the 60s, and who doesn't have a secret identity, though he does wear a mask. He's known to his people. All his people lift him up as a leader. It's a title, it's a role that he has. And instead, his whole civilization, Wakanda, this advanced civilization in the heart of Africa, has to shield itself, mask itself from the rest of the world so that it's not exploited, taken for its advanced technology and resources. I actually think that every superhero, whether it's Black Panther or Superman or Spider-Man, they come out of this need for a story of some kind of liberation. And the Superman story, you might not know this. Did you know that Superman is actually Jewish? He was conceived of by a couple of Jewish immigrants, sons of families who had come over, and he was created in the 1930s as the rise of anti-Semitism was taking over the whole world. Conceived of as this alter ego for these two nerdy illustrators, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. And that was the less Jewish version of their names. And do you know his birth name? All the way on planet Krypton, Kal-El. Yeah, Kal-El. Right? He's this godly being, this one who is sent like Moses down a long journey away from his parents to save his life while the planet Krypton is going to be destroyed. He grows into the powers of Samson and shakes down the world. And so he becomes, through his adoption as an American icon, this hero combating ultimately anti-Semitism as well as many other social issues. He takes on the Ku Klux Klan at one point, right? Though he now can read as such a figure of the patriarchy, of that waspy man, it was all just a disguise. Really, he was this young Jewish man all along. One of the newest superheroes in the pantheon, it's Ms. Marvel. You know Ms. Marvel? Ms. Marvel, she's Pakistani-American. She lives in Jersey. And she's a teenager, and her name is Kamala Khan. She's Muslim, and the beginning of her story, of course, is wrestling with this question of identity, both within her family and to the outer world. There's a moment where she has this kind of classic coming out moment to her families all gathered around in the living room. But she's already kind of let the news slip to her mom that she's a superhero. So when she announces it to everyone, they all act surprised. But very quickly it's revealed that gossip had spread among the family. Isn't it often the case that we are the last to know that our own mask is off, that we're seen? And then the real challenge for her is, who is she going to be as a superhero? Her powers give her this ability to change her form, appearance, and at first she wants nothing more than to be the other Marvel, Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, the buxom blonde, everyone's idea of a superhero. But instead, she realizes after one of her friends says, "We need you to be our superhero. We need you to be the superhero for our community," that she might be able to be a superhero just as herself. What we are asked to do in taking off the mask is not to run around naked all the time. Although, like Aya suggested last week, occasionally sitting in front of the mirror and really loving, accepting just the way you are, that sounds good. But to choose when to take off the mask and when to keep it on in service of something greater. Because what these superheroes have in common, and what all of us, I think, have in common, is that a strong public life must be rooted in a private life that is held in love and respect by a community that understands us. That's what allows us to know when to make the choice of when to reveal and when to keep hidden. It's what allows us to make the choice, like the snake in Heaven's story earlier, about whether it's time to shed the skin, be raw and vulnerable out to the spring that is awakening, or whether it's winter still and that extra layer is needed to stay on. It was one of the qualities of my relationship with Jared that I miss most. He was someone who saw parts of me, who could play and laugh with my anger and my cynicism, who could make the darkest jokes together, so that I knew that even though you're never going to see some of those parts here, even though there are parts of me that will never have full voice in my public life, that they are witnessed, loved, and belong. May every one of us find that we can root our public life in a community that holds our private life with respect and care, that we are witnessed in the fullness of our being in some place, so that we can flame on, so that we can do what is ours to do, so that the gifts that are there in our vulnerability, that were there in whatever our origin stories of wounding are, may be expressed in a world that so badly needs them. May it be so, and amen.
This is the time when we invite you into the spiritual practice of generosity. Instead of passing the plate, you can give electronically by scanning the QR code on the back of your badge, or you can put a cash or check donation into the envelope you'll find in the pew in front of you. Write your name on it and mark offering plate or pledge, and then put it into the donation box beside the fountain in the atrium as you leave the service. Each week, half of the offering plate is shared with the nonprofit Good Neighbor organization recommended by our Social Justice Council. Thank you so much for practicing generosity with UUCB and with our good neighbors. Offerings of any amount are accepted with gratitude. The good neighbor for this month is Safe Organized Spaces of Richmond. SOS Richmond is housed, unhoused, and formerly unhoused staff and allies working together to improve our neighborhoods. SOS Richmond is found in encampments, problematic hotspots, neighborhood events, neighborhood councils, community organizing initiatives, and neighborhood improvement projects, advocating for safety, stability, and security. The urgent opportunities addressed by SOS Richmond for neighborhood action are also doors to personal transformation. While addressing change in our community, SOS Richmond addresses attitudes and behaviors in the lives of its members. The lived experiences of SOS Richmond's unhoused neighbors shapes its collective agency. Empowerment is the key to the shared success of SOS Richmond. Thank you.
If I loved you, time and again I would try to say, oh, I'd want you to know. If I loved you, words wouldn't come in an easy way. Round in circles I'd go, longing to tell you, but afraid and shy. I'd let my golden chances pass me by. Soon you'd leave me, off you would go in the mist of day. Never, never to know. I loved you. If I loved you, longing to tell you, but afraid and shy. I'd let my golden chances pass me by. Soon you'd leave me, off you would go in the mist of day. Never, never to know. I loved you. If I loved you.
Now please join me in dedicating our offering. We dedicate our offering and ourselves to the mission of this congregation, to create loving community, inspire spiritual growth, and encourage lives of integrity, joy, and service.
I am overcome by that, so give me a second while I compose myself. I am Charis Damador, your Connections Coordinator. If you're new to our church and you'd like to learn more about how to get connected, I welcome you to find me or any of the greeters at the welcome table in the atrium after the service. To find out what's happening in the life of our community, you can always check the news link on the homepage of our website, where you'll find our weekly email newsletter, The Week Ahead, which includes a list of activities, announcements, and contact information. This week, I'd like to especially lift up the following. After today's worship service, we'll gather in here in the sanctuary at 12:45 for our February congregational meeting. For voting members attending in person, please check in at the tables in the atrium to receive your voting card before re-entering the sanctuary. Voting members attending virtually will be checked in and have their votes counted by Bill Brown on Zoom. After the service, but before the meeting, a light lunch will be served in the social hall. In the atrium today, the Cultural Identity Chalice Circle is having a bake sale to benefit the Sogoreate Land Trust. Look for the Sweets for Shumi sale. Next Sunday, February 18th, we invite anyone who is new to the church to join us for the first monthly newcomer Q&A. Get a brief snapshot of what UUCB has to offer. It will be in the fireside room after the service. And now a special announcement from the installation committee.
Right in front of the minister. Okay. Karen, have you heard about the installation that's happening this April?
Kind of. What is it?
It's a special service to celebrate the beginning of a settled ministry.
So it has to do with Reverend Marcus?
Yes, it does.
But didn't we do that last spring when we voted to call him to be our settled minister?
Well, that's true, but what we celebrated was the call, and thankfully the Rev accepted. The installation is different because we're lifting up the joy we, the congregation, feels in being in a shared ministry with Reverend Marcus. It's a special worship service you want to come out for, like Christmas or Easter. It will have ministers from all over and special parts like the charge and a gift that don't happen in a regular service.
Well, what I heard doesn't sound like what you're saying.
Well, the installation is full of ritual and it celebrates...
No. What you're saying sounds very churchy.
Well,
I heard something about compost and rainbows. That's why I'm dressed like this. And a party. That's why I'm dressed like this. Like this.
Well, it is, as you say, churchy. And it celebrates our covenantal commitment to the sacred work of our shared ministry. And afterwards, like you say, there will be a party.
Okay. But where does the compost and the rainbows come in?
Oh, I see. Well, remember that we've been having the ground and horizon conversations and we've been discussing our dreams and visions?
Yeah, I was at one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So over the course of UUCB's shared ministry with Reverend Marcus, we'll be taking all of our special gifts, mixing them up, letting them ferment, and wild about in ways that organically fertilize our future.
Oh, I see. Compost and rainbows. The compost is the groundwork we all will put in. The horizon is our visioning, and the rainbow above represents our hopes and dreams for our future together.
That's right. All are invited to celebrate this special milestone for Reverend Marcus and UUCB. Mark your calendar for April 21st at 2:30. Please look out for an invitation with an RSVP and volunteer opportunities.
That's 2:30 p.m., not a.m. Everyone, remember, please come share in the joy. April 21st, 2:30 in the afternoon. Compost and rainbows.
I think I might come to that. That sounds fun. Not churchy at all. Why don't we rise in body or in spirit and sing one more time as we dance between these public and private selves and dance our way into our next series of worship services starting next week, thinking about being courageously corporeal, moving in a dance together. Let it be a dance.
Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Let a dancing song be heard. Play the music, say the words, and fill the sky with sailing birds. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Learn to follow, learn to lead. Feel the rhythm, feel the need. To reap the harvest, plant the seed. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Everybody turn and spin. Let your body learn to bend. And like a willow in the wind. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. A child is born, the old must die. A time for joy, a time to cry. Take it as it passes by. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. Morning star comes out at night. Without the dark there is no light. If nothing's wrong then nothing's right. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let it be a dance. Let the sunshine, let it rain. Share the laughter, bear the pain. And round we go again. Let it be a dance.
Reach out a hand or touch an elbow or a shoulder or just out to the great beyond. Let us be connected, reminded that we are one body, that we depend on each other more than we know, that through the loving witness of this community, through being known in our private lives, we might celebrate our gifts out loud in our public lives, out loud more and more, so that the world can hear us shout. May it be so, and amen.